The Galactic Council chamber had never witnessed such silence. Ambassador Zixathera of the Vortanian Empire stood frozen at her podium, her 6 eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the massive vessel emerging from hyperspace. The other delegates, representatives from 12 different species spanning 3 galactic arms, remained equally motionless, their various forms of breathing apparatus working overtime. That cannot be accurate, whispered High Counselor Meshtak, his crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. Run the scan again. The ship hanging in the void above the neutral zone was unlike anything in their databases, where Galactic Council vessels were sleek, curved, and designed with aesthetic harmony in mind. This monstrosity appeared to have been forged from raw aggression itself. Its hull was a matte black that seemed to absorb light, lined with angular armor plating that jutted out like the scales of some prehistoric predator. Weapon ports dotted its surface like angry eyes, and strange symbols were etched along its flanks in what could only be described as war paint. Scanning complete, reported the AI. Length 2.3 kilometers, mass 847 million metric tons. Energy output. Dear Creator, energy output exceeds our measuring capabilities. Ambassador Catherine of the Peaceful Collective began to hyperventilate through her gill slits. How is such a thing possible? The Treaty of Cosmic Harmony specifically prohibits vessels of war exceeding. The humans never signed that treaty, interrupted Zixathera grimly. We assumed they were too primitive to matter. The communication array crackled to life and a voice emerged, deep, gravelly, and speaking in the harsh consonants of Terran Standard. The universal translator struggled with the accent, but the words came through clearly enough. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force vessel Indomitable. We are responding to a distress signal from the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive our diplomatic envoy. High Counselor. Meshtak's form pulsed a deep red, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. Diplomatic envoy? They bring a ship capable of glassing entire worlds and speak of diplomacy? The truth was, none of them had expected humanity to advance so rapidly. When first contact had occurred merely 50 years ago, humans had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their ships were crude, their weapons primitive, their understanding of galactic politics non-existent. The Council had classified them as a developing species and largely ignored them, focusing instead on the ongoing trade disputes between the major powers. But humans, it seemed, learned quickly. Admiral Chen, Zixathera managed to say, activating the comm channel with a trembling manipulator. This is Ambassador Zixathera of the Galactic Council. We were not aware that Terra had developed such advanced naval capabilities. A pause, then what sounded suspiciously like a chuckle. Ma'am, this isn't even our latest model. The Indomitable is nearly 8 years old, but she'll do for showing the flag in this sector. The assembled delegates exchanged horrified glances. If this was an older model, what did their current fleet look like? Perhaps, Admiral Chen continued, we should discuss the situation on Kepler 442b. Our intelligence indicates that certain parties have been using slave labor in the dilithium mines. The Terran government takes a very dim view of such practices. Ambassador Catherine's breathing apparatus wheezed faster. The Kepler mines were operated by a Vortanian subsidiary, using indentured workers from the Outer Rim territories. Technically legal under Galactic Council law, but apparently not under human standards. Admiral, we appreciate your concern, Zixathera said carefully, but internal matters of Council member species fall under our jurisdiction. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss. Ma'am, with respect, we tried the diplomatic route first. We sent 3 formal complaints through proper channels over the past 6 months. They were all ignored or buried in bureaucracy. The Admiral's voice carried a note of steel now, so we decided to deliver our message in person. On the tactical display, the human warship's weapon systems began powering up. The energy readings climbed steadily, and several delegates involuntarily took steps backward from the display. High Counselor Meshtak flickered rapidly. Admiral Chen, surely we can reach an accommodation without— Oh, we're not here to fight, Admiral Chen interrupted. We're here to collect the enslaved workers and escort them to safety. The Indomitable and her battle group are simply here to ensure that process goes smoothly. Battle group? Squeaked Ambassador Catherine. As if summoned by her words, proximity alarms began wailing throughout the council chamber. More hyperspace signatures were appearing on sensors, dozens of them. Sleek destroyers, bristling cruisers, and support vessels materialized in formation around the massive battleship. Each one looked as predatory and purposeful as the flagship. 17 vessels, whispered the AI. Combined firepower estimated at... Calculation error. Please recalibrate sensors. Admiral Chen's voice carried clearly through the stunned silence. Now then, shall we discuss the humanitarian situation on Kepler 442b like civilized beings? Or would you prefer we handle this the human way? The delegates looked at each other with dawning comprehension. For 50 years, they had dismissed humanity as a minor player in galactic affairs. They had assumed that any species so young, so violent, so chaotic, could never pose a real threat to the established order. They had been catastrophically wrong. Zixathera straightened her posture and activated her communicator with as much dignity as she could muster. Admiral Chen, the Galactic Council would be honored to discuss this matter with you. Perhaps we could arrange an immediate conference? Excellent, came the reply. I'll have my diplomatic team aboard your station within the hour. Fair warning, though, they're Marines. Very polite Marines, but Marines nonetheless. As the transmission ended, High Counselor Meshatak turned to his fellow delegates with his form flickering a resigned blue. It appears, he said quietly, that we are no longer the dominant military force in this galaxy. Through the chamber's viewports, the Terran battle group hung in space like a promise and a threat combined. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as supplicants or junior partners, but as a